Good morning, everyone. I'm Petra Mortimer with Generations Health Education. Thank you so much for joining us for our program, Reimagining Quality of Life for Yourself and Your Older Parent. We are so grateful to have Covenant sponsoring today's program. And in just a moment, I'm going to invite them to join us. But first, there are a few things I want to go over with you. Everyone is muted to eliminate any background noise. However, this is an interactive program, so please feel free to ask any questions, answer questions, or comment on the discussion that is taking place. To do this, you can utilize the chat feature, or you will have the ability to unmute yourself. If you do so, please make sure you mute yourself after. As a reminder, to find the chat, you can scroll over the bottom of your screen and there you will see a banner that pops up. On the banner, there's a bubble that says chat. When you click on that, the chat feature will launch and will most likely show up on the right-hand side of your screen. When you use chat, your questions, comments, or answers will only be seen by our sponsors, our presenter, and myself. This is simply for privacy reasons. Again, we encourage your participation, so please use the chat feature. Jennifer is great about keeping an eye on the chat to answer your questions. We also have several polls today. They're anonymous, but we do encourage you to click on those once they pop up. Also, 2 participants for complimentary consultations will be randomly selected after this event. If you are selected, you will be contacted directly by your local Covenant Living community. And now let me get started by introducing Covenant and Jennifer FitzPatrick.
Hello, I'm Jay Hibbard, Senior Vice President at Covenant Living Communities and Services, and we're pleased to be able to sponsor this event for you. Did you know that more than 40 million adult children provide some form of care for their aging parents? Well, today's speaker, Jennifer FitzPatrick, a former psychotherapist and gerontologist, will talk to us about how the right environments and meaningful connections have the power to change lives. With Covenant Living being one of the nation's largest not-for-profit senior living providers, our mission drives us every day to provide communities that provide a place for aging parents and loved ones to grow and engage in ways that promote purpose and joy. Today's presentation is something that many of you can relate to. You're caring for your own families while also providing a helping hand and care for your aging parents or loved ones. You know, a move to a senior living community can alleviate this stress, provide newfound freedoms, and restore healthy relationships. We would love to have you visit one of our communities and experience firsthand how you can find peace of mind for yourself and your loved ones with compassionate care from Covenant Living, a name you can trust. Now, on behalf of all of us at Covenant Living, please welcome Jennifer FitzPatrick for today's presentation.
Well, welcome everybody, and we are so happy to have you here today. As Petra mentioned, everybody can chat with me directly during the presentation, and think about this hour that we have together as time for you to figure out quality of life for yourself and for your loved one, if that's something that you're struggling with. And for some of us, we don't even realize that we're struggling with redefining quality of life if you're in a position of caregiving for a parent or a spouse. So give yourself permission during this next hour to really think about what your life is like and what you want your life to be like going forward. also what you want your loved ones' quality of life to be. So during this hour, feel free to write it at any time. I'm going to respond to you, but we will get you out within the hour so you can move on with your day. So in terms of quality of life, you saw the video that Covenant kindly put together for us with some clips of the wonderful things that their residents do. And we saw tennis and we saw gardening, we saw all kinds of activities. Quality of life is different for everybody. Everybody's idea of quality of life really is different. And I think a lot of us do a lot of shoulds. So I'm going to start by sharing what my idea of quality of life is, and also how I have done a lot of shoulding to myself, telling myself this should be quality of life for me. So what I really love is I love being near the water, going to the beach, and reading. For a long time during the course of my life, I should like yoga. This would be good for my quality of life. I've tried so many different things that I've thought, in yoga being an example, I'm terrible at it and do it occasionally. But there's times where I've definitely said to myself, well, this is what I should be doing for quality of life. Or this is, so many people seem to enjoy it. But I've got to a point in my life where I've accepted that actually good books are a big part of my quality of life. Now, for some of you, and I'm going to give you an example of my husband, he could care less if he ever reads a book. Other things are part of his quality of life, like tinkering with his boat, something that probably wouldn't appeal to a lot of you. So I want you to be thinking, have you done any shoulds? To as far as thinking to yourself, well, I should be doing this, I should be doing that in order to have good quality of life? Because we're going to examine that over the next hour. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to meet George Takei, and you may know him from Star Trek. He also has done a lot of television shows, probably most famous for Star Trek, but he's actually in his mid-80s, and he has sort of renewed his life as a social media activist. And he has over 10 million followers on Facebook, over 2 million on Twitter. And this is somebody that's out there still working, still doing projects. Now, a lot of people in their 80s, they would say, I don't care about social media. I don't care about still working. I don't need that in my life. And this is what I mean by we all have a different definition. For some of you out there, even if you are retired, you might need something that you want to dig into, a work opportunity, part-time, maybe a volunteer opportunity. But I want to share with you a little bit about my grandmother, who's really on the other end of the spectrum from George Takei. When my grandmother was alive, and my grandma was one of my best friends. This is actually one of my favorite photographs of her. She's with her best friend, who was her first cousin. And my grandmother really, for quality of life for her, really all she cared about was spending time with friends and family and going out to eat. She loved to go out to lunch, loved to go out to dinner, loved to go out to breakfast. And this picture was actually snapped. Her and her best friend, my Aunt Marion, were giggling about something at a dinner that we all went to. So everybody has a different idea of what quality of life means to them. So what I would like to invite you to do as we examine this is I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil. And I want you to give you a moment to do that. Or if you're on your computer screen, if you're not joining us by phone, feel free to pull up a Word document, a blank Word document. And what I would like to, thank you so much. Rizia says, beautiful picture of your grandma. I see the resemblance. I absolutely look like my grandma for sure. Thank you so much. But what I would say is you want to do 2 columns. If you're doing a pen and paper, I want you to put me. And in the other side of the column, I want you to put the name of your loved one, whether it's your parent, whether it's your spouse, whoever it is that you're helping take care of, or the older loved one in your life that maybe needs a little assistance or that you're concerned about. So I want you to be on your piece of paper and pen, or I want you to do that on your Word document. Just make 2 columns. And I want you to take some notes as we talk about the concept of your quality of life and their quality of life, whoever that loved one is that you're helping to take care of. So we're going to do our first poll now. And for those of you who are joining us by computer, you can participate. Petra is going to pull up that poll and you can click on one answer. So I'd like you to invite, this is for you, not for your loved one, but for you. How would you describe your quality of life today? Would you say it's excellent? Would you say non-existent? Or would it be somewhere in the middle? So I'm going to give everybody a few moments to look at that. Click on just one of them. If you're joining us by computer, if you're joining us by phone, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to participate in the poll. But I'd like to invite you to go ahead and do that. And when we have enough answers, Petra is going to go ahead and tally us up and let us know the results. Okay, so there's some good news out of this poll. Some very good news. 27% of you said you have excellent quality of life. 32% of you said your quality of life is good. 36%, fair. And sadly, about 5% of you said non-existent. So I'm glad to see that low number for non-existent. So what our goal is for today is to look at, and I want you to be writing notes in those columns about what your ideas are for improving or enhancing. Now, I'm going to talk to you folks. Some of you folks might be out there in the good and excellent category, and you're saying to yourself, I don't need this program. Maybe I really don't, but you do. If you're helping out with an older loved one, you do. Because that excellent quality of life, that good quality of life, that's a fluid assessment, right? Today, that's where you feel, but is that definitely going to be the case in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months? A lot can change if you're helping out, taking care of an older loved one. So now we're going to do another poll, and Petra's going to pull up this poll. This one, this one is about you. This is about your quality of life. So how would you describe quality of life for your loved one? So if it's your mom, your dad, your grandparent, if it's your mother-in-law, your husband, maybe it's an aunt or uncle you're helping out with, how would you describe their quality of life? Not yours, but theirs. So we'll give it a few moments for everybody to go ahead and click on their choice. Okay, Petra, as soon as you have the results, we'll go ahead and look at those. 19% of you would say your loved one has poor quality of life. 52% of you say fair. Only 5% say excellent, and 24% say good. Good news here is that nobody said that their loved one had a non-existent quality of life. So let's dig in a little bit more about what is quality of life. What does quality of life mean to you? What does it mean to your loved one? And if you're comfortable, if you gave yourself a fair, poor, or non-existent for either yourself or your loved one, feel free to write into the chat section why. Why? If you want to take a moment to write why you gave yourself either an average or you gave your loved one an average or low rating in quality of life, please write in at any point, because I want to hear from you. We want to workshop this. I want to help you to try to figure out why you're giving yourself such a low rating or your loved one. For those excellent and good folks, we don't need to hear from you just yet, but I will be addressing you as well. So as we go on, feel free to write in to the chat section. I would love to hear your responses. If you are choosing non-existent or poor or even fair for yourself or for your loved one. So as you may see here, we have a pie chart, and this really represents a life that we all lead. And you'll see that we have a piece of the pie for work, a piece of the pie for physical health, for psychological health, social life, spiritual life, financial health, intimate relationships. Now, I want to be really clear that this is how a lot of people are looking at their life. There's different pieces of the pie that represent different parts of life. Now, I'm going to give you the example about my grandmother again. When my grandmother was living, after she retired, because she did work for a while, she did not care about working or volunteering. She just didn't need that in her life. And really, and after my grandfather died, we talked about possibly her dating, but really that wasn't a priority for her either. So really the physical health, the psychological health, the social life, the spiritual life, and the financial health were the ways that she gauged her quality of life. She wasn't so concerned about fulfilling herself with volunteer work or a job. She really wasn't that concerned about an intimate relationship. So the pieces of those pies got bigger for her, that they were more important. And these sort of the intimate relationship and the work volunteer sort of disappeared. And some of you might be able to relate to that. So so Erin is sharing that it's difficult to have a good quality of life when the cost of living is really hard to afford. And so Erin, I'm guessing that the financial piece of quality of life for you is something that's really making it tough. And so we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to look at Deb wrote in, my mom's in a wonderful assisted living, but she's dealing with chronic pain and a strong spirit of discontent. It impacts her life and also shapes the lives of me, my husband, and our caregivers. So, Petra, I'm gonna ask you for just a moment, if you would, so we can get the pie chart really up close. I'm gonna turn off my camera and ask you to go to this slide so everybody can see it really, really close. So I'm gonna, Matthew, we're gonna answer your response there. Petra's gonna go ahead and do that for us, and I'll be back in a moment. So I'm gonna keep talking, but you'll see me again in a couple of moments. Petra, oh, there you go, Petra, great job. So yeah, so what I want everybody to do is, when you're thinking about yourself and your loved one, and write this in the columns that you're in, what I want you to think about is, if you want to close out that work, volunteer, or you want to close out maybe financial health isn't that important because everything's good, maybe not Erin, I don't think Erin feels that way because of her comment, but if there's pieces that you feel like you can close up that are not that important, but for some people, all these pieces of the pie are important for them to feel like they have a good quality of life. Okay, thank you so much, Petra. I'm going to come back. So what I'm seeing from Tanya is, and Tanya, what I'm seeing from you is you had an overnight change in behavior with your mom trying to determine the diagnosis. It's been 7 months now. Sandra says, mom has stage 4 dementia, journey started 5 years ago. Financially, in-home and emotional support have been difficult. So what I would love to share is that this right now is about, what are you going to do differently? If your quality of life in one or more areas here is not ideal, is not what you want or not what your loved one wants. Now, if your loved one has dementia, you're going to have to be the one, you and whoever in your family and friends that are caregivers, you're going to have to be the one to sort of make the changes for them so they get a better quality of life. If your loved one, it does not have dementia, they are cognitively intact, they have to make those choices in a lot of situations, because they're the only one that can really choose and make something different in their life. As for you as the family member attending, maybe you're in a caregiving role, a lot of you are, I want you to be thinking about what you can do differently. And so, Erin, I'm going to talk to you. All of us are being squeezed by inflation. There's no question about that. This is being recorded in September of 2022. So for anybody who's looking at this later, hopefully another time we'll be looking at this and it's not such a crisis for many of us. But what I want you to be thinking about, Erin, is, and I believe it was Erin who made that comment. What I want you to be thinking about is, what are some things that you might be able to do in the next week, in the next week or so, to feel less of that squeeze and to really examine your budget, or perhaps, is there something you can cut out? I know that that's something that my husband and I have done. For example, I'm going to just throw this out there. A lot of our work is now work from home. We're not in our cars as much. And so we decided to cancel Sirius XM. So this is just one example that we said, oh, is that really worth paying for anymore? So if finances are a concern, and you certainly want to talk to your financial professional, but if that's a concern, it really is, you're the only one that can really take charge of that. Or maybe are you spending too much money yourself toward a family member's care at this moment? Maybe there's other family and friends in your caregiving crew that need to be part of that. Or maybe there's grants. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be done, but you're the only one. If you're feeling that squeeze, you're the one that has to look at, what am I going to do differently? Am I going to get a part-time job? Am I going to get something work from home? Maybe I can, if I'm in a situation where I'm paying a lot for care, maybe I can get other friends or family to be part of that. So, and I hear you, and I don't want you to think that all of us can feel this, but we are the only ones that can change that financial quality of life for ourselves. Now, as far as, I believe we've got a couple people that have written in that their parents have had change of behavior or chronic pain. For that physical piece, which impacts your loved one, I think that really needs to be, as far as examined, is what can you do differently? Is there another provider that you can look at? So I'm going to just use this as an example, and I don't know how many people this will resonate for you or not, but I want to suggest it because maybe you've done this. But for your loved one who has chronic pain, are you and them open to trying something new? Maybe traditional medicine is wonderful, going to an internist, going to a specialist, but if there is chronic pain, is it possible maybe pain meds aren't helping? Is it possible maybe that your loved one maybe would look into chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, maybe meditation? Are there other strategies that maybe you haven't tried yet, or your loved one hasn't tried yet? I'm not saying that works for everybody, but what I am saying is, if something is not good for your loved one's quality of life or your quality of life, you got to try something different. You can't keep saying, well, let's keep, you certainly can. Maybe it is a matter of you're working with the doctor you're currently involved with, and they give a different medicine or maybe a bigger dosage of the medicine. That might be fine or very appropriate for that issue. But it definitely is something to look at. What can be done differently? And so I want you to think about, as we're going through this program, write notes in each column. Is that something you need to examine, or getting a new doctor? In terms of Tanya, overnight changes in the behavior of your mom and trying to determine a diagnosis, I mean, that's a really tough one as well. While you're trying, so my question for you, Tanya, would be that as far as the overnight change in behavior, while you're trying to get that diagnosis, and while you're trying to improve quality of life for your mom as well as for yourself, I think it is important to examine, while you're getting that diagnosis, to examine what can we do to adapt to mom's changing behavior, to flow with it, maybe rather than push against it. And the reason that I say that is because sometimes it can take a while. If there is a dementia, for example, that is a possibility that maybe, it is for a lot of people, because good physicians, they don't want to jump to the conclusion. They want to do all kinds of tests. They want to give you, a good physician wants to give you a proper diagnosis, but what can we do to go with the flow? So if we see cognitive issues, can we join a support group? Now, there's no reason in the world that anybody can't join a support group right now. There's tons and tons of virtual support groups out there that if you don't want to leave your house, or if you're really private, you don't even have to put your camera on if you join a virtual support group. And two, for dementia, that I really love, and your local Covenant Living, of course, can direct you to, a lot of times they have in-house ones, or they have an external one that they can refer you to. So definitely talk to your Covenant Living. If Mizia, if you would like to put anything in there, we would love to hear from you if you want to share anything about how to get in touch with Covenant Living if you want a support group information. But two that I like, and I'd love to invite Petra to write this in the chat section, is if you go to the Alzheimer's Association website, alz.org, they can connect you with support groups, virtual and in person, in your geographic area. And also HFC, which is Seth Rogen and Lauren Miller Rogen's nonprofit that helps people with dementia and their family caregivers. And that's WeAreHFC.org. WeAreHFC.org, and then ALZ.org. So we're going to put both of those in the chat section for you. I'll tell you what, Maisie is saying our Florida campus holds in-person support group. Everyone's welcome to attend. Other campuses have them as well. And so at the end, you're going to see a slide that has all of the website where you can click and find your local Covenant Living if you want to connect directly with them. Deb, and the chat section is going by really fast, so just please bear with me. I'm trying to get to everybody if I don't see your comment or question. But yeah, Deb's saying, mom's in a great palliative care program for chronic pain, but you're responding almost daily to behavior issues. Here's the great thing about support groups. It's wonderful to talk. I mean, I've been working in this field for 20 plus years, more than that actually. And it's great to hear from experts like myself or people that work in Covenant Living. But one of the benefits of going to a support group is you're hearing from people that are dealing with what you're dealing with. And so maybe your loved one doesn't have a proper diagnosis yet. They haven't pinpointed exactly what the problem is, but your quality of life can be improved by just sharing, or maybe not even sharing, but listening. Other people in the support group will discuss what their parent's going through, or what their spouse is going through, or what their problems are and how they've gotten a better quality of life. And a lot of times it's going to be, we looked at senior living, or maybe we did some home care, we did some adult day, we got more family and friends to be part of the process. But in order to have a better quality of life, if you're unsatisfied, if you are fair, poor, non-existent, you don't have good quality of life, or your loved one doesn't, you've got to think of what you're going to do differently. And so in those two columns that you put, I want you to be writing notes. What could I do differently? What would be helpful to try to pivot a little bit? So we're going to do one more poll, and Petra's going to pull this up. And I want to ask a little bit about you. And this really does have to do with our pie that we just looked at. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So click on everything that applies here for you. Click on everything that applies to you. Misia is saying Covenant also includes the SAIDO learning program, SAIDO, for memory care residents. Many residents on the program have had behavioral issues decrease. So when Petra feels like she's got enough respondents, she's going to tally us up and let us know what's going on with you. And this is the part where you're going to get a little bit of tough love from me. Remember, I used to be a psychotherapist. Okay. So 71% of you said you have some kind of career, job, volunteer work that you like. That's awesome. Because that gives for a lot of you. And again, if you're like my grandma and you don't care about that, you don't need a job or volunteer work to feel fulfilled, that's completely fine. But for a lot of people, they really feel like when they have a purpose, that if some kind of meaningful work of some sort, it really does improve their quality of life. 3/4 of you said you are caregiving. About 20% of you have kids or grandkids at home. Only 24% of you do something fun every day. And Petra, don't take this down because I'm not done with this. So let's address that for a moment. I'm going to give you some tough love. Those are pitiful, pitiful statistics. I'm not saying that you have to go to a spa every day. Okay, that's probably not financially feasible for most of us and probably unrealistic with your schedule. You can't do something fun every day. Something fun? Reading a book, watching a television show, taking a walk somewhere that you find relaxing. I'm not saying that you have to go to a carnival or Disney World every day, right? But I'm going to share just something little that I do that I find fun. And some of you might relate to this, and some of you might say, gosh, this woman needs a life. And something that I do for fun is I actually really, really enjoy walking around like a TJ Maxx or a Marshall's or a Home Goods. I find that very relaxing and I actually find it fun. I don't even need to buy anything. Just if I'm going to meetings or I'm doing things for my family and I take 20 minutes, walk around, I just enjoy browsing. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there on this program that, oh my gosh, I hate shopping. That sounds horrible. I would never consider that to be fun. That's okay. But remember in the beginning when I was talking to you about the shoulds, and I would say to myself, gosh, maybe when I was a little bit younger, or a little less maybe seasoned or mature, I would say, oh, I should really like yoga. No, I really like walking around TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And that is something fun for me. I've tried, for example, going to exercise classes. I just like walking. I don't really like doing exercise classes. I'm not the most coordinated person. I find it stressful. So I think what you want to be careful about is what are the shoulds? It should be fun. Go to a party. Some people love going to parties. Other people, that's not fun for you. Maybe you're more introverted. Maybe you really would just rather have coffee with a friend or talk on the phone with a friend for 20 minutes. But everybody, we've all got to make at least 5, 10, 20 minutes a day for something that you personally consider fun. And I want to invite you to write into the chat section, what do you consider fun? All right. 62% consider themselves spiritual. So that piece of the pie, you want to make sure that you're meeting that need. How can you meet that need? Whether that's praying, whether that's church, temple, synagogue, mosque, whatever, whether you are meditating, whatever being spiritual means for you, you want to make sure that if you consider yourself spiritual, that box does not go away for you. The sleep one, folks, I'll tell you something. That is pitiful statistics too. You are the only one that can change that. You're the only one. 24% of you are not getting enough sleep. Your quality of life will improve. Listen, we don't have enough time to go through all the interventions out there that there are. And really, a lot of it's what I call in cruising through caregiving. And Petra, if you would put in the chat section, cruisingthroughcaregiving.com. If you want the first chapter and all the worksheets from Cruising Through Caregiving, just go to the website. You can download them for free. But in terms of sleep, the boring advice nobody wants to hear. And I always write about this. I've written about this in Cruising Through Caregiving. Mazia says she loves to snorkel. Only activity that allows me not to think about anything but the moment. Love it. I love that. And you're in Florida, so you can do that a lot. But the sleep piece, it's the boring advice nobody wants to hear. Are you drinking too much caffeine, too much alcohol, too much water before bed? Are you waking up at the same time every day and going to bed at the same time every night? Listen, I'm not suggesting that that stuff is easy. Are you only using your bedroom for sleep and sex? I'm not suggesting that this is easy, but these are changes you can potentially make. It doesn't mean you have to go to the doctor and get medicine, although sometimes for some people that is the appropriate way to do it. So about half of you are financially comfortable. About half of you said you're okay with, you're liking some aspects of getting older. Only 62% of you are spending enough time with friends and family. Oh, and Tanya's saying Sleep Cycle app is great and it's free. Cindy says fun is just going for a walk, just getting outside. Yeah, A lot of people feel like that renews them, that rejuvenates them. But for all of this, what can you do? And we talked a little bit about that. I'm not a financial professional. You definitely should talk to a financial professional if that's something that you want to work on improving that aspect of quality of life. Do we earn more? Do we try to bring in more? Or we try to reduce what goes out of our budget? Spending time with family and friends is huge. And if we go back to our pie, which I'm actually going to go back to our pie. If we go back to our pie, that socialization for you and for your loved one is huge. Socialite, spending time with people or doing something fun and spending enough time with family and friends that you want to see. Now, I know that there's sometimes family and friends that you don't really care if you see them. That's okay. They're sort of in your life. It could be an in-law, it could be an old friend that you just don't have that much in common with, but you still want to be part of their life. But people that really rejuvenate you, really make you feel good, that socialization, there is countless data that impacts your physical health, your cognitive health, and your mental health. So don't look at that as something you can throw away and take off your schedule. In fact, sometimes taking off some work obligation or some other obligation can sometimes be a better choice than canceling on a friend that you were supposed to, even just doing a Zoom with a friend. During all the craziness of the COVID-19 policies and the pandemic, we got very accustomed to these virtual conversations. Even if you can get back to that, even a simple phone call can be really, really good for you. But you have to be the one to make the commitment to make a change. So what are the obstacles to actually getting the quality of life for yourself or for your loved one? Now, I talked about the shoulds, and I'm guessing how many people have a should? That I should be liking this, or I should be doing this, or I should find this easier. You know, for a lot of people, it's exercise or weight loss or getting your finances in order. But there's a lot of shoulds that people want. I should be eating, certain food. I mean, I feel like when the kale thing started, I did a lot of shoulding myself about that, saying, I should really like kale. I should try to get more kale. I should put kale in my smoothies. Absolutely hate kale. So there are other ways to reach your goals other than sometimes those shoulds that maybe have been pushed into your brain. And if you have a should, I want you to be thinking about. Now, one should that comes to mind for me, from the 75% of you that are family caregivers, is I will never replace my loved one outside the home. They have to stay home, or they should. I don't want any strangers working with my loved one. That's a big should that a lot of families buy into, and it's very unhealthy. Now, for some families, keeping a loved one home works beautifully, especially if there's 10, 15 people in the family helping out. I use the example of President Reagan a lot. He had the Secret Service at his house. He had doctors, he had nurses, he had a lot of help in the house. And Mrs. Reagan wanted to keep him home. I write about that in Cruising Through Caregiving. Okay, that works. They have a lot of people. How many of you have that kind of staffing? Probably not many. I know you don't. I know probably nobody on here has the Secret Service for sure. But the other piece of it is, I wonder, and I'm not criticizing somebody that wants to keep their loved one at home, because sometimes it does work and it makes sense. But in a lot of cases, the socialization aspect at home is lacking. And we just talked about how important activities, friends, family, interacting with different people. There's a reason organizations like Covenant Living communities have a whole day of activities and programming and all sorts of, you saw the clips in the beginning when the intro video was being played. So a lot of times people get into this space, that's a should that a lot of family caregivers do to themselves. I should be a better husband or a better daughter or a better grandchild. If I was, that you're putting yourself into this mindset. I want everybody to remember there's not one way. There's not only one way to be a good caregiver. There are many ways to be a good family caregiver who takes care of or helps out with somebody you love. So other obstacles are not being honest about your priorities. What are your priorities? And for a lot of you, and especially those of you who said you're not having fun every day or you don't feel good in your body, sometimes you aren't making that your priority, or being financially solvent isn't a priority. And so you have to really, in those columns for yourself and for your loved one, I want you to be thinking, and writing down for yourself some notes. What are your priorities? Be honest about what your priorities are. What is important? And sometimes if you've got a loved one that you're caring for, they become your only priority. You find yourself in what I call, in cruising through caregiving, martyr syndrome. Can anybody relate to that? That you feel like your loved one, if it's your mom, your dad, your mother-in-law, your spouse, your grandparent, you feel like they're the center of your life and that's it. You deserve to be a priority for yourself too. You deserve to have the pieces of the pie that are important to you. Those are something that you deserve to make a priority. Feel free to write in if you feel like that your loved one is really the only priority in your life right now. That maybe you've stopped going to your doctor's appointments, you've stopped exercising, you've stopped having fun. All your discretionary money maybe goes toward your loved one. A lot of obstacles about getting your quality of life and the quality of life for your loved one involve what other people think. What will my siblings think if I move our mom? You know, never mind my siblings aren't helping, they're not doing anything, but what will they think? What will they say? What will my neighbors say? What will they think? Will they think I'm a bad daughter or a bad son? What about if you're struggling financially? You know, that's the part of and some people have identified that's a tough part of their life. That's not an area where they have quality of life. What will other people think if I don't donate to the cause this year? Maybe somebody's doing a walk or a run and you don't feel like you can responsibly make a donation, or you're buying a less expensive gift for somebody. What will other people think? And so I want you to be really thinking about, when you are looking at your quality of life, what will people think if I don't go to that event? Listen, we talked about socialization is huge. Socialization is so important to physical, mental, and cognitive health for you and your loved one. But we also have to keep in mind that there are times that you don't want to go to an event. You don't want to go to that. Maybe there's a big cookout coming up in your neighborhood and you go every year, you don't really find it that fun. And you would rather take that time to read a book, watch a show on Netflix, maybe get to bed earlier. Don't worry about what people are thinking. You can turn down invitations that are not satisfying to you. So I want everybody to be thinking of at least one thing that they're going to do for themselves to improve quality of life, and write that down in your column. And what can you do to maybe help, if your loved one does not have dementia, what can you help them do to improve their quality of life? Or if they do have dementia, what steps can you take to make sure that they have improved quality of life? So feel free to write into the chat section if you have a comment about that. If you're worried about what other people think and that's impeding your quality of life, how do you prioritize? Look at that pie, and I want you to think about that pie and say social, spiritual, financial, physical, intimate relationship, work, all of that. I want you to be thinking about, where do you need to shift your priorities? Where do you need to do something different? I'm going to share a personal example. I want to say about 10 years ago, I really started making sleep my priority. And a lot of people would maybe call me a workaholic. I work a lot. I really like my work. But about 10 years ago, I found that I was sleeping maybe 5-6 hours a night for a while. And I was really sleeping in on weekends, and it was really not the best thing for me. I didn't feel great. And something just snapped for me one day, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just not going to do this anymore. So I'm not saying that I do everything perfectly. I don't eat kale, for one. I'm not running marathons, but I do not mess with my sleep anymore. I absolutely get at least 7.5 hours per night, at least. On average, I probably get about 8 hours a night, and some nights a little more, some nights a little less. But I finally hit a wall where I was feeling really lousy, and I said, I'm making this a priority. So I want to give everybody a moment to think about, what do you want to make a priority for yourself? And Tanya shared with us, the Sleep Cycle app is great and it's free. What do you want to make as a priority for yourself? So this is your life. This pie chart is your life. You can take away some of the parts. If you're a zillionaire and you don't need to worry about financial health, pull it out. Don't worry about it. But what are you going to fill in with the rest? If you don't care about work or volunteer, you don't care about intimate, I think it would be, everybody probably cares about their physical and psychological health. Some people, now listen, I keep talking about the benefits of socializing and how they help your cognitive and mental health. And all that's terrific. There are some people that don't need as much. They have certain personality traits where they don't require as much socialization as others. But for most of us do need a good amount of socialization in order to be physically, cognitively, mentally healthy. So I want to ask you some questions, and I really want people to feel free to write in their thoughts about this. When you're looking at your loved one's quality of life, if you compare this year to last year, is your loved one spending more time than usual at home? So when I see just a Y or an N or a yes or a no, so whoever it is that you're helping out with, the 75% of you that are caregiving, are they spending more time at home than usual from a year ago? For those of you who are saying yes, it's a big red flag. It's a big red flag. Now, this often will demonstrate that there's a little bit of a decline, or maybe a lot of a decline. Maybe the person is more anxious navigating stairs, or if there's bad weather, maybe it's rain. They feel like they're a little nervous, they're going to slip. But if your loved one is spending more time at home than they have, I'm telling you, their quality of life is probably diminished or diminishing. Have their health conditions gotten worse lately in the last 3, 6, 12 months? Yes or no, Y or N? This is a red flag that your loved one's quality of life is diminishing. And I think that's a pretty obvious one. Has ambulation gotten worse? That maybe they are very, very nervous about falls, or they have to use a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, or that you're nervous. You feel nervous when they're trying to get around the house, or trying to, maybe you're taking them to church or you're taking them shopping and they seem like they're struggling with walking or getting around. Matthew says, mom lives alone since dad died 10 years ago, walks with a friend every day, likes her space and independence, but she's starting to talk about feeling lonely. We worry she's not getting enough social interaction. And Matthew, I'm really glad you're listening to that, or you're listening to that voice that's saying she's telling you she's feeling lonely. But you're also worried she's not getting enough interaction. A lot of times when people think we need to make a change for our loved one's quality of life, it's, oh my gosh, she's not walking the way she used to, or she's spending too much time at home, or her health conditions are getting worse. But the socialization is huge, because we talked about organizations like Covenant Living have all kinds of events, programs, services that allow people to engage with others that are in their age group. And one of the sad facts about aging is that a lot of people's friends and neighbors start to pass away, and it's an opportunity to meet new people and new people who are living in the same space. So whether you choose to do senior living like Covenant, or whether you choose to, or you invite her to maybe do more things or go to the senior center, it's up. As Sandra's saying, mom goes to adult daycare every day, whether she chooses to engage or not. And that can be a really terrific option. Thank you for sharing that, Sandra. The other big one, it's a sign that your loved one doesn't quite have the quality of life he or she deserves, is when medication compliance falls by the wayside. It's a big red flag. And especially if these are really important meds, and a lot of our older loved ones are on really important life-saving or quality of life enhancing medicines. So if the compliance is falling on the wayside, that is something that should be a red flag. What do we need to do differently for my mom, my husband, my grandmother to have better quality of life? So this is probably the most important one that has to do with your quality of life and their quality of life. Tanya has a question, and I think Maisie is the one that can answer that for us. Does independent living have resources to check on loved ones if family caregivers are gone for a period of weeks. And I know Mazia will get you that answer, Tanya. So family members, are you functioning? Do you feel like maybe you're not really the wife anymore? Maybe you're not really the daughter or the daughter-in-law anymore, but you're like the housekeeper. You're the nursing assistant. You're the medicine aide. You're the chauffeur. You're the errand runner. You're the chef. You're the housekeeper. How many people put a Y in if you can relate to this with your loved one that, yeah, oh, Irene says all of the above. Yeah. And Maisie is saying that they do respite. There's respite care at the Covenant Living, 2 weeks to 2 months. So if you're finding that, this is impacting not just your quality of life, but it's impacting their quality of life as well. Sandra says, I'm the CEO of everything. Got it, Sandra. Yeah, that you're doing all of this, you're in charge, it's tough. So it's time to do something different. If you feel like, now listen, if your loved one, let's say your loved one had knee replacement surgery and it's temporary, you're the housekeeper, you're the medicine aide, you're the driver, you're the errand runner, you're the chef, and it's going to be a month or a couple months to recover, that's one thing. But if this is, you don't know how long, maybe there's a dementia diagnosis, maybe there's heart failure diagnosis, this is probably going to get worse. This is probably going to get worse for you. So you want to be looking at, what am I going to do differently? Am I going to bring some help into the home, whether it's paid, whether it's friends, family, neighbors? Am I going to look at adult day? Am I going to look at Covenant Living, or at least take a tour? I encourage everybody, just go take a tour. Before you are able, before you need it, the best thing to do is look at senior living, look at home care, look at all the options before you need it. Because I'll tell you what, Amazia and I and everybody that works in this field can tell you, most people don't do that. Most people, what they do is they wait for a crisis. They wait for a big fall. They wait till their loved one has a stroke. They wait for the worst to happen. And then they say, oh, I need a support group. I need senior living. I need adult day. Matthew's saying he'd like to know more about respite, and I'm sure Mazia will get in touch with you. We'll make sure that somebody from Covenant gets with you directly, Matthew, about that. The other question I have, and this is another big one, is your loved one saying, I'm independent? What are you talking about? This happened with my grandmother. My grandmother had heart failure. She had a whole bunch of other issues, lots of ambulation problems, was forgetting her meds, didn't have dementia though. And we would say to her, Grandma, can you please consider senior living? No, I'm fine. I'm completely independent. She would say that, and she believed it. But really, there were about 10 of us in the family that were spending the night, dropping off food, taking her to the doctor, reminding her about her medicine. So we were propping her up. Now, again, if it was a short-term thing, she had a knee replacement, she's going to be better soon. That's different than months and months, and turns into years and can sometimes turn into decades. So if you're propping the loved one up, that is impacting your quality of life. It's also impacting their quality of life, because what happens is when somebody starts to get the confidence, and I find this especially a lot of times with senior living, when I find that somebody gets the confidence, if they're in a senior living community, like a Covenant, they are set up so your loved one can be more independent. Julie's sharing a little bit about her experience. Several people came to respite for their Keene, New Hampshire, and the campus, and they said it was like vacation. So that's great. Tanya is also, seems like, interested in some respite care information as well. But this is a sign. If this is, you're regularly propping your loved one up, they believe they're independent. You're like, no, they're not. If we weren't over there all the time, they wouldn't have meals. They wouldn't take their medicine. It's time to think about, what am I going to do differently? What are you going to do differently? What are the consequences of waiting? So obviously things get worse. We have seen, all of us that work in this field have seen, when an intervention happens to improve quality of life for the family caregiver and for the person who has an illness, the older loved one, that it gets better. It gets better if there's senior living, if there's home care, if there's adult day, if you bring in more help in terms of friends and family. If you wait, you get burned out and your quality of life gets worse. And guess what? You're not providing great care. They're not getting great care. What happens a lot of times when somebody's even thinking about independent living or even assisted living, sometimes people miss their window. And I have a friend that's going through that with his parents right now, that they've selected the senior living that they're interested in, but the one parent is saying, not yet, not yet, not yet. And he's saying they're going to miss their window. They're going to miss their window, and they're going to eventually wind up in a nursing home because the chronic conditions are getting worse. A lot of times, whether it's adult day, whether it's getting some home care help, whether it's senior living, I find this in particularly relevant to senior living, that it might be that they miss their window. They're no longer healthy enough for independent living. They're no longer healthy enough for senior living, that really they qualify more for a nursing home type of setup. So that can be but also the burnout, the exhaustion, the lessened quality of life for you and your loved one. Those are some of the consequences. So big piece of how to improve your quality of life, I want you to think about at least one thing you're going to do differently in the next week or so. What are you going to do differently? What's one thing? Maybe making sleep a priority, maybe doing one fun thing per day, even if it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's taking a tour of a Covenant Living or some senior living communities. Maybe it's setting boundaries with your loved one. And this really is only appropriate if you want to create a plan going forward, and one of them might involve boundaries. Now, if your loved one has dementia, setting boundaries is not really what you want to be doing. You want to start taking action. However, if your loved one lives independently, cognitively intact, you might be saying, and this is what we had to do with my grandmother, we can't sleep over every night. We were being late for work. We started having health issues of our own. And there were a lot of us taking turns. But setting a boundary with your loved one. Listen, I want you to consider home care. I want you to consider senior living. I want you to consider, we've got Lisa saying, so important to move to independent living when you're healthy, start building strong friendships, and those people can help the family as the loved one ages. That's great advice, Lisa. What will you stop doing? So not only what are you going to do differently, but what do you stop? And so I say maybe stop if your loved one thinks that he or she lives independently, but really they couldn't live independently without you and your caregiving crew helping. Maybe say, I'm only going to be able to come by twice a week with food, or I'm only going to be able to spend the night once a week, or what are you going to stop? I'm going to have to stop doing this. With my grandmother, my dad was the first person to say that. I'm stopping. I can't sleep over there anymore. I'm just not getting a good night's sleep. He told her and our family, this is what I'm going to stop doing. However, here's what I still can do. I will still pick up medicines. I will still take her to her doctor's appointments. But it's also equally important. What are you going to do differently? But what are you going to stop? So as you move forward, obviously, I know everybody's got a doctor, but do you need a therapist? Do you need more? Do you need a coach, a caregiving coach? Do you need a support group? These are resources that are at your fingertips now. And the great thing about psychotherapy right now, I don't believe all psychotherapy should be done online, but you can do virtual. If you really feel like you can't drive to a therapist's office, most states, you can do it virtually. Think about what are you going to do differently, but what are you going to stop doing? And a lot of these programs I end, one of my favorite authors, Dr. David Burns, he talks about depression in his book, Feeling Good. And he's a psychiatrist, and he talks about the concept of action begets motivation, begets more action. And I find that very true for lots of things, not just depression, but improving your quality of life for yourself and your loved one. Take one small step. And when you take one small step of what you're not going to do, you're going to stop, or what you're going to do differently, you're going to get motivated to do more. And so that's going to improve your quality of life and your loved ones. Thank you all so very much for joining us today. That's awesome. I've got people saying they're seeing therapists to get you back from the ledge. It is invaluable. I've been a shrink. I see a shrink. I believe everybody can benefit from good therapy. So really great to see you all today. I'm gonna let Petra wrap us up, but I'm gonna hang on here. If anybody wants to ask any last minute questions, any comments, but thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna turn off my camera, but please feel free to write in while Petra's wrapping up. If anybody has any last comments, I will try to answer them.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This was so interesting. And to everyone, again, 2 participants for complimentary consultations will be randomly selected after this event. If you are selected, you'll be contacted directly by your local Covenant Living community. Please stay tuned for a link after the program and complete a short survey to tell us how we did. And thank you again for Covenant for sponsoring today's program. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.